Welcome to House of Grace one more time. And so this morning, if you saw Billy Anger introduced himself last Sunday, sort of giving a little 5-minute intro to the class he's teaching on Wednesday nights. As you see, we have a couple of breaks in between those 6 classes. We have a fine arts night, and next Wednesday, everybody say fine arts night. Come out and support our youth. How many of you know they need that? How many of you know they need that even if you don't have a child that's in fine arts, that they need your support? How many of you ever remember as your high school days getting up and doing something that was out of your comfort zone? Okay, maybe none of you did anything in high school, but if you've ever done that, especially if you're the only one on stage and doing that, so we're gonna have that break. And then the next following Wednesday night is spring break, and last year, I think on spring break, we had like 19 people. That may be a little bit exaggeration, it may have been like 17. And so we decided just to give families a break for a spring break and do that kind of stuff, and we encourage you to spend some time with your family. But today we're going to allow Billy to come up, and I'm not going to introduce him so much. Yeah, come on up. Billy's going to introduce him, tell you a little bit of what he does in ministry and different other things as he speaks. And you're going to be able to tell he does apologetics across the nation and I guess around the world too. Talking about how to defend your faith. And so we've asked him to teach a class for us and come up and speak to us this morning. So welcome him as he comes.
All right, thank you, Pastor. Hey, good to be here this morning. Thank you so much. We had a great time on Wednesday night getting launched. And this morning I am so stoked to be here with you in North Richland Hills. And as Pastor mentioned, we are beginning to travel, really zigzagging the United States, which I'm grateful for. And some doors are opening up overseas. I'm not one of those evangelistically kind of speakers where he stretches the truth, but I had never seen this on my radar. Never had an interest in pantheistic world religions, and God, in his great sense of humor, decided to open up doors of ministry with the Hindu faith culture as well as the Buddhist faith culture. And I was speaking, I guess it was 2 or 3 weekends ago, something like that, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and one of the national directors for what's called Sharon Fellowship Church, they've got about 2,000 churches in India, he came and said, we'd like you to come in December and speak at our national convention, and specifically we want you to deal with the departure from the faith that all our kids in the Christian faith here in India are experiencing. And I thought, that is a strange statement. The kids of the Christian faith are leaving the Christian faith in India. And he said, yeah, with the advent of the cell phone and of course everything taking place in real time, he said, we're having the same problem in India as we're having here in the United States. And so I thank God for those doors opening up, and I'll deal with what apologetics is in just a moment. Now, Pastor mentioned a guy by the name of John Wesley a moment ago, and it brought to my mind something that I read about John Wesley. He's a hero of mine, and of course, from John Wesley came the great Methodist movement, the method. That's what Methodism is all about, the method by which we serve Christ. John Wesley stood at a towering 5'4" tall. And in my mind, he was one of the greatest giants of the faith. He was 87 years old when he died, and in the course of his lifetime, he preached 40,000 sermons. If you do the mathematics, that equates into 3 sermons every day for the course of his life. He traveled 250,000 miles without an automobile, without a railway system, and without an airplane. He did so either in carriage, on horseback. He traveled 250,000 miles and preached 40,000 sermons in his lifetime. And when he was 85 years of age, he wrote these words in his diary. He said, I am becoming increasingly concerned that laziness is starting to set in. 85 years of age, I am increasingly concerned that laziness is beginning to set in. The tendency to sleep past 5:30 is now becoming a problem. God, give us more Wesleys. God, give us more Wesleys. Pastor Jonathan, thank you for the privilege of being here, not only this morning, but also the privilege of doing our teaching. Now, on Wednesday night, I'm going to deal with the subject, is it intellectually reasonable to believe in the existence of God? 2021, there was a cereal called Alphabets, and they discontinued manufacturing Alphabets. But if I stood in front of you this morning and I knocked over a box of Alphabets, what would you expect to see on the ground? You would expect to see letters, but you certainly would not expect to see something along the lines of, please remember to do your laundry. It would just be a scattering of letters. It would be disoriented. There would be no communication whatsoever. The human body has 40 trillion cells. 40 trillion. Every nucleus contains something called DNA that has 6 billion different code in each strand of DNA. If you would take the human I don't have a piece of paper in front of me, but basically it's folded like a piece of paper. And if you would unfold those pieces of paper, your DNA is long enough to circle our solar system 2 times. Now understand something. If at any time there's a breakdown in the message, now your DNA consists of 4 letters, C, G, H, and A. And all of those letters speak about a chemical compound. And every one of those chemical compounds are not randomly placed in order, but specifically designed. So if you walk downstairs in the morning and you saw a box of Alphabets on the ground, you would think if there is no order, no communication, no instructions, it happened accidentally. But if you look down and you saw the message, please be sure to do your dishes, you would think to yourself, somebody wrote that message. I refuse to believe that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and it's all a matter of randomness. So we're going to deal with that on Wednesday night. Is it intellectually reasonable to believe in the existence of God? Deacon, back there, if you don't mind, slide number 1. And there are a couple different themes we have in our ministry, but this is probably the number 1 at this time. The tomb is empty. Your mind should not be. Slide number 2, if you don't mind, Deacon. Thank you, sir. God has opened up doors for us to be on these college campuses in the first 6 months of the year. And we've got one, I don't think it's up there. I will be at the University of Tulsa here in just a few weeks. And what I like is that we are not going to be inside the building, but we're going to be on the sidewalk. We've set up a tent. We're going to set up a tent and engage in conversations with those students that sometimes bring questions that are extremely challenging. In fact, I just received an invitation last night to come to Sacred Heart University in Connecticut. And it's a group of Hindu campus leaders that are launching a brand new ministry. And they said, would you come and help us launch the ministry and speak to our students? I said I would be delighted to do so. And so basically, I'm a missionary. I've become a missionary to the college campuses of the United States. And I appreciate Pastor Jonathan. He said we're going to jump on board and help you go and travel to these different forums. And so thank you, House of Grace Church, because that is what it takes. Partnership and teamwork in getting this job done. Give me slide number 3 if you don't mind, please, Deacon. Slide number 4 if you don't mind. This is some of the work that we do. On the bottom of the screen, you will see that is a group of high school juniors and seniors, as well as college freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And I had the privilege of teaching them at a retreat in Denton. They represented about 3 or 4 different colleges and high schools. And I had the privilege of teaching them some of the basics of the Christian faith. That top right-hand corner is a retreat that we did last year at Clemson University. Slide number 5, if you don't mind, Deacon. I'd appreciate it. Now, this is what really touches my heart. This is a group of young adults that I spoke to at the University of Arlington, University of Texas in Arlington. And this group has no idea who Jesus is. As a matter of fact, at the retreat I did last year, there were probably 150 students that were present. And maybe 100 of them were Hindu, 50 were believers. And I went and sat down right in the middle of the unbelievers. And I never had a sense of lostness like I had when I stood in front of that group of young men who knew nothing about Jesus. We're Americans. We may not be believers, but every one of us has a good idea of what the Christian worldview is. But when you're standing there in a group, in the blankness, the stares of oblivion, having no clue what was going on, it broke my heart. One of the students actually came to Christ, went back home. The parents found out. We've got to be very guarded in what we say on social media. The parents found out the young lady made a profession of Christian faith. They beat her so bad she was fighting for her life in the intensive care unit. There's a cost to making this declaration for Christ. So thank you, Pastor, for helping me go and speak to a generation that is departing from the faith. Apologetics, if you don't mind, please, the next slide. I'll get on my feet here momentarily. I said this Wednesday night, apologetics does not mean saying I'm sorry for what I believe. It is actually a word that comes from 399 BC when the guy, there's the definition. Go back to the picture if you don't mind, please. A guy by the name of Socrates. He's on trial for his life. He's being prosecuted by a man named Meletus and Anytus. And the reason they're prosecuting him is because they found him guilty of two charges. Number one, he was corrupting the morals of the miners in Athens. And number two, he had no devotion, his impiety toward the Athenian gods. And so they put him on trial. They argued the case. And so Socrates, being so brilliant but also so sarcastic, stood up and he said, well, after hearing Meletus argue the case for my guilt, if I did not know better, I would think I was guilty as well. His sarcasm didn't do him any good. He was found guilty, and the next morning, on February the 15th, he took poisonous hemlock. He drank it. His life was expired, but a young man in that crowd by the name of Plato was documenting Socrates' defense, his apologetic. And that's what the word apologetics means. It is a defense of the Christian faith. And by a jury count of 281 to 220, 501 jurors in total, as I said, Socrates was found guilty. Slide number 8, please. Here is the basis of what we do. I think that's slide number, give me slide number 8. Is that slide number 8? This doesn't bode well. There it is. And here it is. This is what the qualifying statement is. In your heart sanctify the Lord Jesus Christ. I said this Wednesday night, we're not here to win an argument. We are here to win a heart. We are engaging in the battle of ideas. And always be ready to give to any man an answer for the reason of the hope that you have. And the bottom line is this: most of us in this auditorium this morning could not give an answer for why it is we believe what we believe. We know what we believe, but we really can't give a credible, scholastic, academic answer as to why we in fact believe what we believe. Slide number 9. After I received the phone call to come and speak at the University of Arlington, or University of Texas in Arlington, I began looking through some research polls, Barna, Lifeway, Pew Research, and every one of these research polling companies all were saying the same thing. Next slide, please, Deacon. The information was absolutely staggering. 75% of all self-identified Christians between the ages of 18 and 29, 75% of all self-identified Christians in this nation between the ages of 18 and 29 leave the faith during those 11 years. I shared that with you last Sunday morning. The Assemblies of God, that number's even higher. We are in the midst of a crisis. Something needs to be done. I had no intentions at 53 years of age to do what I'm doing. None. I traveled for 15 years preaching old-time revival meetings, and at the end of that decade and a half, I wondered, did I make any difference at all? No plans on doing this. But sometimes I am convinced that when we see a need, the need becomes the call. I did not have a visitation from Gabriel nor Michael. But I did have a visitation from reality. The Assemblies of God's got 13,000 churches in it in this nation alone, and not one apologist as far as I know. We are so far behind the curve. Our kids are walking away from let me change that. They are running out the back door. And something needs to happen because our kids are facing a brand new phenomenon called deconstructionism. Deconstructionism is deliberately deceptive. I can't tell you the number of mothers and grandmothers because it's typically the mother and the grandmother, not the father nor the grandfather, that come to me with tears in their eyes and say, Billy, we raised our kids in church. They never missed Sunday morning. They never missed Wednesday night youth group. They never missed summer camp, the retreats, the conventions. They were always there, but it's taken their university professor less than one semester to completely dismantle their faith. And by the time they come home for Christmas break in their freshman year, they are questioning the very Christianity we poured into them. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis. And let me say this also, especially in Pentecostal churches and in the charismatic world, we push the idea of youth, and all Christians for that matter, of having an experience with God. There's nothing wrong with having an experience with God, but the experience dissipates over time. The experience typically does not last. The only thing that stays there concretized in our mind is what we know through the teachings of the Scripture as we've put together a systematic understanding of what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. Our kids have been left defenseless because, again, we've had experience without understanding, and the end result is deconstructionism. There's nothing wrong with questioning your faith. I've had so many pastors come to me and say the only reason our kids are asking you questions is because they're looking for a reason to rebel. And I want to say to the pastor, you're an idiot. I'm not real diplomatic. I apologize. What planet are you living on? Questions are a normal part of the growing process, and every person has a right to question their Christian faith. As a matter of fact, I can't remember who it was. Might have been Moody. I can't remember. Your Christian faith is not your faith truly until you doubt it right to the ground. Nothing wrong with doubting. The problem is this: deconstructionism removes the textbook from the process of learning. Back in 2004, my wife had a hysterectomy, and so when we went to the surgeon for the pre-surgery consult, we thought that he was going to tell us that they were going to gut her like a fish. And we quickly discovered that they no longer use a scalpel, but instead they use laparoscopes. The technology changed, but the one thing that the medical community did not do was it did not throw away the anatomy book. You cannot throw away the Bible and still retain your Christian integrity. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to get to it in this Veritas, but I love to argue the defense of the Bible. Because, of course, the world out there says the Bible is just a book of fables. There's nothing really to it. And when you begin to delve into the beauty and the majesty of biblical integrity, you walk away saying, like the Apostle Paul, now I know in whom I have believed, and through that book I am persuaded that God is truly able. Are you guys still out there with me this morning? So let me give you a little analogy regarding the times in which we are living. The United Negro College Fund was established back in 1944, and it was designed to give African American students that were academically worthy a scholarship to any one of 37 different schools. And in 1972, the UNCF adopted a little motto that I thought was so effective. The reason I think it was so effective is because we're still reciting that slogan today. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. But I believe in 2024, that motto has shifted ever so slightly and yet ever so significantly. I contend the mind is a terrible thing to contaminate, and the mind is a terrible thing to corrupt. So where does it all begin? Deconstructionism. The slide that Deacon put up there just a few moments ago said worldview. Everybody's heard the term worldview or the word worldview. I can never do that right. The word worldview. I want to say worldview. Everybody's heard of the word worldview. If you don't mind, there it is. Doesn't really matter. Where does the concept originate? If you don't mind, slide number 12, please. The philosophical background goes to something called German idealism. The guy in the upper right-hand corner is a guy by the name of Immanuel Kant. And Kant was trying to bridge together two dominant philosophical thoughts. Now, you might sit there this morning and say, this is boring. I'm not here to hear about philosophy. You better open your ears, because this is the mess your kids are being given. And so what they're trying to do, what he tried to do, is he tried to bridge together rationalism and also empiricism. Now, what is rationalism? Rationalism simply says the only way you can know truth is through logic and reasoning. Now, I believe that logic is an extension of the very character and nature of God, as is truth. Now, it's interesting, Immanuel Kant said, now this is the crazy thing, he one time said, it's absolutely impossible to know anything is real in this world. The irony is, he was making a truth claim, claiming he knew something to be real. Now, the problem with rationalism, the problem with using reason and logic is that you and I are not infinite beings. We're not divine. We do not have the mind of God. And because of that, history is filled with examples of people that have used logic and reasoning and yet come to a false conclusion. We used to believe that the earth was round, all based on logic. The guy on the right is George Washington, who in 1799, at 69 years of age, had a sore throat. He went out and he surveyed his plantation, and there in Virginia, he came back, he had a sore throat. I mean, he was robust, strong, powerful man at 69. But when he had the sore throat, his doctor came in, began to speak to him, and at the end of the day, I mean, within 24 hours, Washington was dead. He wasn't dead because he had a sore throat. He was dead because logic said, we need to do some bloodletting. And they drained him of 40% of his blood because that seemed to be an effective method in treating sickness. So Washington dies. Not because of a sore throat, but because he's drained of 40% of his blood. Logic says that drinking alcohol keeps us warm, when the reality is, all it does is expand the blood vessels in the skin, giving the sensation of warmth, while simultaneously doing the very opposite. It's cooling your core. Logic doesn't always work. Are you still out there? Just checking. Empiricism then says the truth is discovered through what you smell, what you see, what you taste, and what you touch. Is there a problem with empiricism? Do you know this is an absolute fact? The color of your food affects its taste. That's why food dye is so popular. Psychologically, your food tastes different based on its color. Give me slide number 14, the Ebbinghaus effect. Empiricism. You've probably seen this before, and if I would ask you the question, which orange dot is larger? A lot of people would say the dot on the right is larger than the dot on the left. It's because in this instance, context determines perception. But the reality is, these two dots are exactly the same size. What does it boil down to? It boils down to this. Logic, reasoning, and my senses will never tell me why or ever tell me how a Jewish carpenter dying on a Roman cross could bring salvation to the four corners of the earth. And yet I believe that Jesus saves, and his blood still washes whiter than snow. Take it one step further. How can his death save me from eternal destruction? Reasoning cannot answer the question. Logic will always fail. And yet I know it works because I am a changed life. Y'all getting something? I'm trying to read my audience out here. Just checking out there. I'm very insecure. So I need some help. James Sire wrote a book, The Elephant in the Room. It was really a seminal work on worldview. He said worldview is based on two things. Number one, your assumptions, and number two, your questions. Everybody has things they assume to be true. The problem is those things you assume to be true a lot of times aren't true. And most of the time our assumptions are matters of what's right and what's wrong. How do we determine what is right and what is wrong? It used to be that creationism was right, evolution is wrong, but now the very opposite is true. How did we come to that determination? We used to believe that premarital sex was wrong and only sex within the confines of marriage was appropriate. But now we're told that if you don't take the car for a ride before you buy it, you're a fool. Now, I use vernacular because this is where we're living on the college campuses. And I know some of you sanctified saints. The world can't give us an understanding of truth. We assume things to be true that aren't necessarily true. There was a philosophical movement that came into place back in the 1950s. And after the League of Nations, the United Nations was formed in the early part of the 1900s, the world thought, well, we'll never have to worry about another great war. You know, the League of Nations, the war to end all wars, World War I. And then suddenly there emerges a guy named Adolf Hitler. And at the end of Adolf Hitler's reign of terror, tens of millions of people are dead. Europe has been decimated. And so this optimism in man's understanding and in man's brilliance gives way to pessimism. And that pessimism today is identified as postmodernism. Postmodernism can be, I guess, best defined as what may be true for you, slide number 15, is not necessarily true for me. Postmodernism says it's impossible to know anything to be true with any certainty. Again, is that significant? It's impossible to know anything is true with any sort of certainty. Slide number 16, if you don't mind, please. This guy's name is Harold Pinter. He was the winner of the Nobel Prize in 2005, and all he does is proves that dumb people can win the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this is the height of academia. And this is what Pinter said. In the next slide, he said, there are no hard distinctions between what is real and what is unreal, between what is true and what is false. A thing is not necessarily either true or false. It can be both true and false. Now, once again, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but this is what our kids are being taught the moment they walk onto the campus of the university. I gave the little analogy on Wednesday night. Somebody walks up to you and says, there's no such thing as truth. You simply say, is that true? There's no such thing as an absolute. Just simply say, is that absolutely true? But now what I'm hearing is this. I'm hearing this statement. It's my truth. You have your truth, I have my truth. The problem is that is still an objective claim. And it's an objective claim. That means it applies to everyone. The application is universal. It's a completely flawed philosophy. Your truth isn't necessarily my truth. Then, by definition, it is not truth. So postmodernism refuses to make a distinction between matters of opinion and what is truth. Here's a great example. You've heard of Plato. I mentioned him a moment ago. Good old Plato. He said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, is that a truth statement or an opinion? It's a truth statement, but its application is an opinion. Still there. Now, here it is. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I did some cross-referencing, and it was a group of university students that were talking about the laws of the land and talking about violent crime, university students. And the question was posed to these students, is rape always wrong? Is rape always wrong? And the consensus of that student body was, we cannot say that rape is always wrong because postmodernism throws out absolutes. Absolutes are found in such words as no, never, always, or only. Most students said, we don't like the idea, but to say that it's always wrong is to say that there's a moral law operating that really doesn't exist because truth is what we make it. Guys still out there with me? So if rape is not always wrong, the only thing we can infer is that rape sometimes is. And we look around wondering why our nation is floundering in this quagmire of indecisiveness and confusion. When you take away truth, you've got nothing left but anarchy and chaos. Now, you might say again, I'm not a postmodernist. Billy, why are you talking to me about this? Because I'll guarantee your kids are or your grandkids are, and you don't even know it. This is a battle of ideas. And it's a fight for the heart and the soul of our nation. You see, if there are no absolutes, the next slide, please, Deacon, then this absolutely makes no sense. There's one name given under heaven whereby absolute, you must be saved. It doesn't say you can be saved. It says you must be saved. How do we reconcile Jesus' claim in John 14:6? I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No man comes to the Father except by me. Truth. Slide number 20. This guy's named Alvin Toffler. He's passed away. He was brilliant. Brilliant in the fields of AI, cloning, communications, and the like. And again, it's an amazing thing to me how someone so brilliant can still be so narrow-minded and so skewed in their perception of reality. This is what he said. Every person carries in their head a mental model of the world, a subjective representation of external reality. Every person carries in their head a mental model of the world, a subjective representation of reality. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about Dodge, Chrysler, or Ford here. We're not talking about Chinese, Italian, or Mexican cuisine. We're not talking about I want a vacation at the beach or I'd rather vacation in the mountains. We're talking about life and death because the very nature of truth is it has no compromise. It either is or it is not. A is A or A is not A, but it can't be something other than that. Now here's a really good statement. Postmodernism, see if this doesn't jive with what you're seeing on the news, subordinates truth to identity. Truth and identity. And when judgments of truth are based on individuality, people lose all discernment. Again, we're having all kinds of fights between what is right and what is wrong. What is right, what is wrong, what is right, what is wrong. Do you understand why we're so confused about matters of right and wrong? You can't make a distinction between what is right and what is wrong until you can draw a distinction between what is this and what is that. But if you can't define this and distinguish it from that, you'll never be able to come to the conclusion some things are right and some things are wrong. And when truth is redefined, I am convinced abnormalities become normalized and normality becomes hatred. Give me the next slide if you don't mind. This one's going to really go great. The next one. I think I'm missing it. Now listen, I'm not here to fire darts at anybody. Okay, but this is the world we're living in. And I'm going to go down on record and say it. A child needs to be raised by a father and a mother, not a father and a father or a mother and a mother. They need to be, don't even give me this nonsense about as long as it's a loving house, it's acceptable. God programmed men a certain way and programmed women a certain way, and a child needs the investment of both the father and the mother if the child is to grow up healthy and emotionally established. You can take that down. I don't want to keep that up there anymore. I shared this on Wednesday. Now, what is it that drives me personally? Give me the next slide if you don't mind, Deacon. My grandson, 10 years of age. My daughter calls me 3 years ago and she says, "Pop, I got to talk to you about something." Judah just came home from school and she said they taught him, he was 7 years old. They taught him gender fluidity. What in the world is gender fluidity? When I explained it, she was at the administrator's office the next day. Give me slide number 25. Now, you guys got a good pastor. That's a place to say something. You've got a great pastor. I know what I'm talking about because that's what I do. I work with pastors. He's got a passion, a vision, a drive for this church and for his people. I was the worst pastor on the planet. I would have loved pastoring if it weren't for the people, but you know how that old adage goes. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not the most spiritual person in the world. I don't like her. I borderline hate her. And I justify my hatred by the verse Jesus said, "Put a millstone around their neck." This lady right here advertises on TikTok, targeting her audience of 9 to 13-year-old girls. 9 to 13-year-old girls on TikTok. She has one motivation. She practices in southern Florida. She does plastic surgery. I'm not going to show you a long list of her work. I'm just going to give you one. Deacon, you're going to give me one slide and get off this slide. But this is why I hate this lady. I mean, this is why I'm praying for her. Just give me the next slide, if you don't mind, please. That's who she is. You can't see it really well from back there, but the girl on the left's 13 years of age. You will see massive scars under her pec muscles where she just had a radical mastectomy. Now, you can move it off of there. This is what we're facing in our country. And in the second two weeks, I'm going to deal with this. Because when people have issues of personality disorder, we treat the personality disorder, we don't treat the physical problem. And who doesn't know that when you're a teenager, you hate the way you look? Subjectivism. Here's another great one. Are you ready for this one? Slide number 26. Y'all know this picture. Yeah, there's William Thomas, 462nd in the NCAA men's swimming, deciding in his senior year that he's now going to swim as a lady. Incidentally, the University of Penn nominated him for Female Athlete of the Year. And of course, he had to swim against Riley Gaines. Everybody, I'm sure in this room knows who Riley Gaines is. Give me the next slide if you don't mind, please. I think that's it. Yeah, it's going to show us 6'4" tall, but he does not have a physical advantage over the female. Ladies and gentlemen, the only reason this mess has gotten as far as it's gotten is because the church has refused to stand up and say, we've had enough of this mess, we've had enough of this outlandish behavior, it's about time somebody stand up and say something. We're not going to tolerate this junk anymore. Lord, help me to keep sanctified, because I know I'm not. How do you keep sanctified if you're not sanctified? Give me the slide, the next slide, if you don't mind, please. This is the problem I have. I'm going to give you one guess who that is. One guess. That's Riley Gaines. When she's 4 years old, who sacrificed her entire childhood for the dream of being the best NCAA female swimmer in the country. Getting up every morning at 4:30 to go to the swimming pool. Getting off of school in the afternoon, instead of going out and playing with her friends, she headed to the swimming pool, all so that she could be the best in her field. And to have someone arbitrarily stand up and say, I stink as a male swimmer, therefore I think I'll try on the... And now I want to share in the reward that was procured by the young lady that sacrificed her entire life. Something smells in that. All right, it's 11:58. Are you living your truth? I think it's important that we draw a distinction between truth and perspective. Truth and perspective, truth and perspective. Thomas was living his truth. Whatever. He was living his truth. Here's me living my truth. Slide 30. We understand there's a difference. What are you all laughing about so much? Between truth and perspective. You know, when the Europeans came to this new world and they ventured across the Atlantic Ocean, risking their lives, they did so again in search of the new world. But when they got here, they discovered the indigenous people. And to the natives, there was nothing new about the land in which they were living. Perspective is not necessarily truth. So how do I discover truth? Christ was rejected by untold thousands of people. But the one thing we can say about Christ is this: man, that guy looks good. He never questioned his identity. How do we discover truth? Give me, if you don't mind, please, slide number 31. I've got to move on. Slide number 31. This is what Jesus said in St. John chapter 8, verses 12 and 14. He spoke to them. He said, I'm the light of the world. He that follows after me. Now watch this. Though he follow after me, he shall not walk in darkness, but he shall have the light of life. Verse number 14. Even if I bear witness of myself, my witness is true. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. Here's the three components to understanding your worldview as a Christian. Number one, Jesus said, I know where I came from. Number two, I know where I'm going, therefore I know my identity. Look at that trifecta. I know where I came from, I know where I'm going, therefore I know who I am. I love what C.S. Lewis said. I believe in the Son not because I see the Son, but because by the Son I see everything else. By Christ, I see everything else. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. Therefore, I know who I am. I won't get into naturalism and pantheism that basically says the universe is divine. I'll touch on that Wednesday night sometime. We won't get into naturalism. But I do like creationism. Because only creationism can explain to me the material world that we're living in, time, space, and matter. Time cannot create time, space cannot create space, matter cannot create Matter, therefore, takes something that's immaterial, something that's spaceless, something that's timeless, something that's powerful, something that is intelligent to bring about what we have in this world today. And if you want to believe this just as a matter of chance, I would love to have that. Where's my camera? Give me that camera right there. Those of you that are watching by the internet, if you think it's a matter of chance, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. I'm not here to win a fight. I'm here to find truth. And I believe that truth can be discovered. All right, guys, I'm almost done. Fate. Pantheism, Buddhism, Hinduism, atheism, all they can do is tell you what something's fate might be. Only Christianity can tell you what something was created for. You see, it might be the fate of a rusty hammer to be discarded in the city dump, but the fate of the rusty hammer is not its purpose. Its purpose was to drive nails. Only Christianity can tell you your purpose. And again, I don't want to impose on your time. How do we understand? How do we discover truth, empirical adequacy? I believe that the Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ historically, scientifically, through archaeology, through extra biblical writings, are absolutely incontrovertible. The evidence is there. Number two, it's logically consistent. It makes sense. Only Christianity can explain the story of man in a way that is understandable. And then number three, it must be experientially relevant. If your Christianity doesn't work, then you don't have Christianity the way the Bible teaches. But I'm not saying that to malign you. I'm saying, man, let's find the truth. Let's find what that means to discover Christianity. All right. Now, with all that said, at the end of the day, nobody comes to Christ intellectually. Apologetics doesn't win people to Christ. All it does is open a door of conversation. The greatest apologetic is not what we know scholastically. The greatest apologetic that we have is the life that we live. For Paul said we are living epistles read before all men. There was a guy by the name of William Gipsy Smith, British evangelist. And he made the statement, he said, there are 5 gospels. 5. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Christian. And most people will never read the first 4. Guy by the name of G.K. Chesterton. I love Chesterton. Love him. He made this statement one time. He said, the Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It's been found difficult and left untried. That must be our apologetic. I assume most of you all know this, and I'm going to close with this. I assume most of you know this, but is there still the Green Valley Raceway that's out of business? It was about, a mile from here? About a mile from here. 50 years ago this month, a guy by the name of Evel Knievel jumped 12 Mack trucks right down the street there at Green Valley Raceway. Set a world's record, getting ready for the Snake Canyon jump in Idaho. Right here in North Richland Hills, Evel Knievel. And when he landed in such a way that he broke his back. But he still made the jump at Snake Canyon. My point is very simply this. The life that we live will break us. But we've got to be like the daredevil and say, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm facing, and no matter the setbacks I've had to endure, I'm getting back on the bike. I'm going to live a Christian life that is exemplary so that when people see me, they see Jesus. That's all I've got to say. this morning, if you guys don't mind coming back up here, man, I don't know you, but I love the way you lead worship. Man, who are you? You're the worship leader, obviously. Man, I love the I love it. The whole worship team, you guys are just absolutely the best. Your enthusiasm, your passion, your energy for loving Jesus is incredible. And I am convinced it's going to take that apologetic to get the attention of the world so that the world understands there's something more to this than just 90 minutes on a Sunday morning. So Jesus, let them see you in me. 'Tis so sweet to trust in you. But Lord, we are thieves if we hoard this relationship and keep it from others. Jesus. Lord, you are the truth. Now I realize what I taught this morning is a little bit different than what you're accustomed to. This is what I teach on college campuses. These are the conversations that we have that open up interaction that leads to deeper truth. So I would covet your prayers. I never saw myself at this place. Could not imagine it. But mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, auntie and uncle, our kids are dangling in the balance, and the statistics are irrefutable. Most of them are going to walk from the faith. God, help us. Give us a strategy. Give us a comprehensive plan to deal with this exodus. I have a son right now in California. I baptized him when he was 10 or 11 years old. I love him. But he's one of those. You see, I'm not talking about something theoretically here, guys. I'm living it. Maybe that's why I feel so driven. What will it profit us if we gain the whole world and we lose our kids and lose our grandkids? I somehow suspect that the Holy Spirit is dropping an image in your heart right now, putting the picture of a young one in your spirit. Lord, we pray together. We bind our faith together. In fact, if there's someone right now that you're really pressing in on spiritually that's running from the faith, would you stand with me? Just stand with me. Stand with me in agreement. I'm not going to call you forward. Let's just stand together. Lord, I pray for these that are standing and the one that is represented by their position, their posture. Lord, whether that's a child, grandchild, niece and nephew, irrespective of the relationship status, we merge our faith together. Lord, I'm not seeking a dynamic moment here. I'm seeking a significant happening. May this moment point to and mark in eternity the pivotal moment that something changed. God, I believe in the heavenlies. There's a fight for the battle of our children's soul. There's a battle for our children's souls. And God, I pray that there would be an intensity and a fervency in spirit to even now tear down those imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. Our kids have been so deceived. They've exchanged the truth of God for a lie. And now our kids are worshiping the creature more than the Creator. God, do something right now in the heavenlies that touches the earthly. Because again, all the logic and all the reasoning in the world will not win this spiritual conflict. And yet I stand on the authority of Scripture. The battle is not yours, it is mine, says God. I want you to speak the name of that one right now. I pray for Isaac. He's my son. I pray for Isaac. Turn him around. I pray for your son. I pray for your daughter. Turn them around, God. They are the heritage of God. And secularism, naturalism, and atheism cannot have them. The lies of the enemy that saturate their media, that infiltrate their entertainment, that totally sabotage their relationships. I pray that God, you would bring destruction, bring confusion, scatter the enemy, perplex the opposition. Let the knowledge of God invade. Father, step front and center and flex your mighty muscle of righteousness and truth. Let truth arise. Let truth ring out like a clarion call. Let truth reverberate throughout the four corners of this world. Lord, let truth penetrate the hearts and the lives of the Gen Xers, of Gen Z, the millennials, every and all generations who've left the church because their questions were not answered. God, reach to them one more time and speak to them. Help them. Enlighten them. I pray in Jesus' name. God bless you guys. Thank you, Pastor, so much for the privilege of being here this morning.
That's the reason we wanted to have Billy in, for just what he's talking about. Some of us, and I'm not going to re-preach anything, but I'm just saying that some of us in churches, even Pastor Dylan and stuff, is trying to talk about some tough subjects and stuff. And I have parents sometimes saying, well, I don't think our kids are ready to have those conversations. I'm telling you, somebody's talking to them about it. And if it's not them, they're watching something. As much as we guard them, as much as we try to protect them, it's out there in our world today. We can't deny it. So we need to teach them. And that's the reason even like yesterday is just, we're talking about, we had somewhat of a vision day for our church and the future of our church. And one of the biggest things that we're trying to work on is discipleship and teaching on things that we need to go even deeper in teaching and training. So there's a foundation there that cannot be shaken. And so I thank Billy. I appreciate you so much for coming, and your wife, and being with us today. And like I said, we're going to have this Wednesday and a break for a couple of weeks. But if you believe in what Billy and his wife and his family is doing, and you want to support that, you can get on our push pay and do that. Just put in the memo, just put his name, Billy Anger, and we're going to give him an offering as a church for speaking and being with us for the next few weeks. But if you believe in what he's doing in our college campuses, You can give to that minister if you want to put a check in the back. If you'll write the check out to AMPED, AMPED, is that correct, Billy? That way it'll go to his nonprofit there that supports him in doing that kind of stuff. And so today, like I said, if you want to invite a friend even next Wednesday or this Wednesday, and after that, we're going to get going. Thank you for all of our guests who came today, and we welcome you. There's a Connect card, looks like this in the back of your seat. We'd love for you to connect with us so we get to know you a little bit better. And if you have a question, you can ask that question on the card, and we'll get back with you as well. We also have, again, Daisy and Garrett. They have a baby shower next Sunday. And I know that the women are going to the comedy night, and the slides sort of look like we're going to put on our own comedy night. And so that's the way it looks. We're not. We're actually going to go see somebody that's going to do comedy night, so it's great. So we're going to do that. And last thing, Billy, I did not give you permission to use that picture of my body with your head on it. That was not, that has been copyrighted. And it's just the lighting, if you can't tell, it's just the lighting up here. But, and I actually thought that was your great-granddaughter, Billy. I'm just joking. Okay, that joke just went, all right, we're done. That's for today. So thank you so much for coming today, and thank you for being a part of House of Grace. And we will see you Wednesday night.